Yo, hello, hello. We got Jenkins the Valet on the line. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Oh, good. Your microphone, I don't know if it's fully plugged in. If we can do like another check real quick.
Okay. How's this?
Oh, it's something sounds super funky with it. I don't know if it's like a cable if you're on a headset or something. But it's very difficult to understand.
Give me 1 second.
Yeah, for sure. No worries. Take your time. Avi, busy today, but yeah, man, let's schedule a time and day. I'd love to come on. Hell yeah, awesome, love it. See, we have people come on, and now we're able to do even more stuff for it. NFTs. I don't think that's his voice. It sounds like a transformer that's trying to connect to whatever planet they were from. If I submit artwork, or sorry, for artwork again, is JVB going to throw my points back in my face? We can do the paint drawing later at 5 o'clock. Remind me. We can crank one out for sure. The
Hey, how's
robot
this?
vibes. Oh, that's fantastic. Sorry for being picky there. Um,
No, it's all good. I heard the Transformer comment. I was thinking, maybe it's just like I'm trying to be Jenkins. I'm getting so into character. I have like a voice modulator too.
Hey, listen, that's called extra effort. Love to hear it. So, guys, this is Jenkins the Valet. They just had a drop the other day. They were doing a ton of Twitter spaces leading up to it. The drop was crazy. Some of the NFTs are selling for insane amounts. I was actually even thinking about jumping into one of the bigger pieces for that. But, Jenkins, can you give us a little bit of an idea of who you are and what Jenkins the Valet is?
Yeah. Wow. I mean, it certainly was a crazy drop, and it's been a really hectic, I don't know, 36 hours since then. Jenkins the Valet is the eyes and ears at the Bored Yacht Club. I uh, I picked up Jenkins, or the ape that would become Jenkins, on the secondary market, maybe a week or two after the BAYC primary sale, and immediately I was like drawn to this ape. If you look at him, he's a valet. Like, there's no other way to say it. He's got a valet hat, he's got a valet vest, like the whole thing. If you go to like a nice club or a hotel or something, like this is the ape that would be standing outside. Um, and so after having this ape for a few days, I have a creative writing background. I was just thinking to myself, like, I really wanted to contribute to the community. I love these avatar projects. I love how it gives people the opportunity to like play with different identities, or to maybe be more of themselves online or something like that, because there's a little less pressure when you don't have like your face or your name on it. And so I was seeing a bunch of stuff on Twitter already, and I just wanted to do my best to like, pay it back to the community because of all the creativity that I was seeing. And so I wrote this little story about who Jenkins was. Um, Starts like, my mom cried when I accepted the job, or when I got the job as the valet at the Bored Ape Yacht Club. The idea is that Jenkins is from the other side of the swamp. He wasn't supposed to make it. He's like the sort of everyman ape, not super rare, no crazy properties, things like that. But as getting the job as the valet at the Bored Ape Yacht Club, he started to sort of show that he was trustworthy, and that he had discretion and things like that. And so he started doing odd jobs for other apes. That's basically what this first story was about. And the reception was like amazing. The next day, I put out a type form, basically just asking other apes, like, because people liked what I put out so much, wanting to know, like, hey, like, I'm the valet, like, we've probably worked together, we've done I've done things for you at the yacht club, like what are those stories, like, what have we done? And in a day we got, dozens of responses. I think eventually it grew to hundreds of apes who wanted to tell their ape story through Jenkins. And so we started publishing a pretty regular cadence of just like vignettes on Twitter, talking about different apes' backgrounds, what their properties are, who they were, and how they worked with Jenkins, and just kept growing. Like, kept getting really positive feedback. People liked it, and the whole thing, like, it was always a credit to the community, because the content that I was writing was just putting taking what people were telling me, and the stuff, like the conversations that we were happening every day, and the things that were happening in the space, and then just like putting it into like a slightly longer form piece. And so we got the idea to bring an NFT to market, to go to basically do that, but go really big, and source ideas from thousands of people, and write a full feature book. So that's what we're doing right now, and that's the NFT that we sold out on Wednesday night were passes into the writer's room to come together to make we're going to write a full novel.
I think it's brilliant. I think the story around it's incredible. I think the design that you guys have on the website is absolutely top notch. I've seen some tweets about your team as well, which we'll jump into in a minute, and that's awesome. And unfortunately, we weren't able to do this before the drop, but I know a lot of people within my Discord and people that watch the stream did get in for this drop, and I was a little confused at first because I got a DM from Jeremy, and he's like, "Yo, you got a key and a couple of tickets," and I was like, "Wait, what?" And then I realized like they weren't revealed because I was apparently not paying attention. I realizing that all of these kind of had different perks within them. So can we talk about each one individually and kind of go through what are the perks for them, and potentially if anybody's wanting to pick one of them up off secondary, what are the reasons to do that? And for the first one, with a quantity of 5,205 for the valet tickets, your name and ape, if you own one, is listed in the acknowledgement. So with this one, is it just something where you get your names and the credit for it?
Yeah, basically the idea here is that my partner Safa made a point on Wednesday night. He thinks that we may have a shot here to set a Guinness World Record for most authors on a single book. And anyone who's in the writer's room who exercises voting power over the creative direction of the book that we write will be inscribed as an author or as a creator of that book. A valet ticket gets you 5 votes on every proposal that's set forth in the writer's room. So that could be like, what should the genre of the book be? Is one of the first questions we need to answer. Should it be a mystery? Should it be sci-fi? Should it be romance? I don't know. That would be a little weird, but like, it could be anything. And so if you have a valet ticket, you can apply 5 votes to any proposal. You get recorded as an author of the book. And if you have an ape, and this is true for every tier, if you have an ape, we'll be offering you a licensing agreement to feature the image of your ape in our book in exchange for a licensing fee, which manifests itself as a profit share of all primary and secondary sales of the book once we're complete. And that book will be an NFT itself. It'll also come with a physical copy of the book if you mint.
Okay, I like that. I like that. And for the second one here, you get 10 writer room votes for the key, valet ticket NFT perks, plus your ape is in a game of Where's Jenkins on the back inside cover. If you own one, you are referenced in some other way if you don't. So Where's Jenkins? That gives me the whole Where's Waldo. Am I right with the assumption there?
Yeah, exactly. One thing that we're looking to do here is uh, even the word like book that we're creating, I think is like not quite maybe as like accurate as the final thing that we actually produce for this like first piece of content. We're thinking, I mean, like we have like the power of like software, right? And so we can make a more sort of like interactive book that exists like on the internet. If you have access to the NFT, of course, like the physical book would just be like, a really nice, almost like a coffee table book kind of thing. But for this game of Where's Jenkins, what we're trying to do is create like a more modern day Where's Waldo. There may even be some like motion or movement or things like that. And I think the point is that like as you scale up the tiers, your ape, if you own one, or some other reference to if you don't, gets like featured in like a heavier or has a bigger scope in the book. And for this game of Where's Jenkins, it's going to be more of like a inside back cover kind of thing, or something that's more like pervasive throughout the whole story, just like woven like a string of like apes that are hanging out with each other, and maybe they like even they're doing something that makes sense at that point in the book or something like that, and they're sort of sprinkled all the way throughout. And so we'll license your ape to that game in exchange for a licensing fee, which is a profit share of the book.
And so for the next one, for the valet ticket, actually I don't. Okay, so for the third one here, I don't know what this is called. Is it just called like the key stand?
Yeah, it's like the valet stand,
The
like
valet stand. Okay,
where
awesome, awesome.
like where he hangs out at the yacht club, like where you'd come up. And you toss your keys to Jenkins at that valet stand, and then Jenkins would dock your boat or something.
And so, for the perk of this one, with the quantity of 297, your ape is an illustration if you own one, or you are referenced in some other way if you don't. So, when you're saying like an illustration, and if there is 297 of them and they're all apes, it feels like holy sheesh, that's a lot of apes to
Yeah.
do like illustrations. Is it something where a lot of them would be put on, the same page? In a way, is this going to be like spread out through different editions? Can you just break that down a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. So this is like it's a really ambitious project because it incorporates so many characters, and we actually have. I'm gonna wait for us to make our own like full announcement to the writers' room, but I can sort of do like a little sneak peek here. Like we're actually talking to like quite a few writers with like really great backgrounds who are interested in entering space and helping with this project and things like that. And one of the first things we always talk about is like the number of characters that we need to represent, either written into the story. We'll talk about that with the yachts, or in an illustration. The way I might think about these apes that are illustrated is almost like like extras in a movie. So let's say I talk about my friend the ape father all the time. He's one of the apes who we did a story for early on, and he's the head of the ape mafia. Let's say he owns a yacht and he's written into the story. There may be a dozen other members of the ape mafia that would make sense to depict as like his crew at some point in the story. And so if the ape father ends up being relevant in some scene, or if your ape shill ends up relevant in some scene, and there's a bunch of other apes that are sort of like they're like with you, or say, I don't know, you're playing in a poker game with them, or you're at the bar with them, or something like that. You could imagine like a bunch of unique illustrations that might each feature somewhere between 5 and 15 apes doing a thing, like a scene that's in the book, even if not each of those apes are referenced by name in a scene.
So I'm very interested in all this stuff because I think Bored Ape's the absolute freaking moon. But when we're talking about like the book and the illustrations and whatnot, my mind goes to thinking of kind of like a children's book in a way where they have like the big pages with like a little bit of text, but also I feel
Yeah,
like this could end up very much so working as like a full-blown like chapter book
totally.
that way. So with this, is that going to still be decided within the writers room, or what's kind of like decided on that part already?
Yeah, it will certainly leave a lot up to the writers' room or voting around like what the genre should be, what the plot should be, things like that. But just to give you an idea of as a way to make sure that we can include as many avatars as possible, and obviously there's a commitment to including an ape for every single writers' room NFT that there is. And then down the road we're going to produce different types of content as well, maybe with different avatars, things like that. What I have in my head is I think this ends up, especially because in space so many of us really care about collectibles. I really do think this ends up looking more like the size of a coffee table book, something that you'd be proud to display. And with that size, with like I don't know, a 24 by 18-inch book, you've got a ton of space for text as well as illustration. And so I don't think it's going to look like a chapter book that you flip through, or a children's book. I think it's sort of somewhere in the middle because I think the space sort of looks for something more like that rather than something you might just like throw on a bookshelf.
That's freaking cool. I'm not gonna lie. When you word it that way, I love it. Okay, so I was dead ass thinking about buying one of these yachts yesterday because I'm like, for me, I have, or I ended up winning the Elite Eight for the Punks comic for that second one. But that one, I don't think there's any kind of like royalty splits or like anything like that. But for you guys, with this final valet thing, your ape is in the book. If you own one, or you are referenced in the way in some way, sorry, in the story in some other way if you don't. But I know you mentioned before about having like a profit share or whatever.
Yeah.
So what are the perks for owning one of these yachts? Because I think they're about 4 or more ETH at this point.
Yeah, and that's been like awesome to see. It's been really inspiring to see that people think that like the present value of a yacht is 4 ETH, because that means that there's a lot of confidence in the type of content that we can produce over time. And I'm really grateful like to that kind of support. if you own a yacht, your for this first book where we're featuring apes, your ape is guaranteed to have a character in the story. You'll be in the story. Now, obviously, some yachts or some characters may be in a ton of scenes, and some may have more supporting roles, and that'll be based off of like basically the way the rest of the plot is like voted on, because it may not make sense to have like a karate zombie featured really prominently, or maybe it would, right? Like let's say your ape had a yacht shill. So that will have to work out as the plot gets voted on. But every ape will be like a named character in the book. One of the things we can do with like a more interactive kind of immersive like HTML digital book is that actually when you're written into a scene, if you if a reader hovered over your name, we could pull up the image of your yacht, we could link to your Twitter. Like, I think one of the things that's really cool about how we're going to write apes into the book, even at the size of 69 apes, is it means that your ape will have been at the story, which gives you like all this runway to build your own story too. Like, if you want to start tweeting about the stuff, like let's say you're in this like poker match, just like hypothetically, if we were going to write that, I'm thinking like Casino Royale style or something. Now all of a sudden, like, you've got an ape who's immortalized in this book as a poker player, and you can take it in that direction if you want, or you can build off of like that game or anything you want. And so I think we're really excited about the opportunity to like build deeper interconnected IP across all of these different apes that are named. The licensing agreement extends to any ape, though. Even if you license your ape just for us to use its image in an acknowledgement, or if you license your ape to be in the story, like written in as a character, the profit share that is part of the licensing fees gets paid out to any ape that we license. So that is regardless of tier. The only thing that tier does is it changes the scope of the role of the ape in the book. And of course, maybe that has downstream implications. Like if you hold a yacht, um, that ape is going to become more well known because it's going to be more featured in the book than if you don't hold a yacht. But the actual payout from the share in the book that we produce in the writers' room would be the same regardless of tier.
I'm liking this more and more all the time. Did you ever think about doing like some kind of burn mechanic with it when you were developing this?
Yeah, so certainly, and I think something that we can still talk about. I'll tell you what our like top priority is keeping the whole thing above board legally. I've worked with more lawyers on this project than on anything else I've ever done in my life. One of our advisors is Jacob Martin, the NFT attorney. It's one of the reasons that we really wanted to work with the community to build something, license a service from the people who we work with so that we could participate, because we know that if a human being signs a licensing agreement, that like stands up in court, that's legal, that's everything, that like all good there. And the way like we want to sort of survive going into the future is like just not to do anything that like would potentially sort of verge into a gray area. And so we were really interested in in burn mechanics, and we want to learn more. And we're like pumped to explore that. And if we can do something that we feel like won't get us or our members in trouble, we're gonna do it. And if we can't figure that out, we won't do it yet, and we'll keep pushing until we can find a way to get it done.
Love it, love it, love it. Now, I want to jump into your team because I remember seeing a Twitter post before about this, and here you have the writers' room brought to you by Jenkins The Valet at the Bored Ape Yacht Club, a terrible secret keeper, and your lead storyteller, Fubar, punk number 4257, the Solidity developer who brought you HD Punks, Revests Finance, and more. Safa, product marketer and community builder, never seen an ape he didn't follow. Josh Ong, founder of Causeway Strategies. Andy Chorlian, founder of Fractional. Drew Austin, partner at Red Beard Ventures. Jacob Martin, the NFT attorney. And Adam Brotman, CEO of Bright Loom. So, seems like you guys got an absolute powerhouse of a team. From your perspective, when you're putting this all together, can you just kind of tell us about the backstory of the team coming together for it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll talk about the core team first, and then talk about the advisors that we were really fortunate to bring on. The core team, Safa and I actually have known each other for, I don't know, more than 2 decades, and so we've always, even before, we've talked about like crowdsourced content for years. And it just happened that it came together like with NFTs. I mean, NFTs are like unreal, right? It unlocks so much. Just ownership, with the ability for people to participate in different things and like have it be trustless and all of that is super exciting. And so I think when we saw the space move in this direction with avatars that were verifiably owned, we were really excited to try to see like what we could do. And Safa is a marketer, owns a brand agency, works has worked in consumer for years. I have originally have a background in software, and then turned writer. It's funny. I actually was like, uh, worked in product management, then wrote. Now I'm like writing and working in product management, I guess, with this product, like what we're doing here. So that's pretty exciting. And so the two of us felt like we really had like a great idea of where we wanted to take it. We needed a Solidity developer. I mean, just got like, we're so lucky to get to work with Fubar. I mean, Fubar is like everywhere. I feel like he works on everything. He's a Sushi Grant contributor. Yeah, on our site you can see he's doing the GameStop NFT, or maybe we don't have that as part of his bio, but he is doing the GameStop NFT. HD Punks, Revest Finance. Feels like he's just like an amazing contributor to the community, and he I mean, a lot of the success of our drop, I think, is a credit to Fubar, because he wrote the contracts just like it was magic the way he did it, and that was huge. There was a ton of demand, and I think gas, all things considered, was pretty reasonable the way he was able to structure like the transaction blocks. And so then we had the three of us, and we were like, all right, we feel like we have, most of the skills that we need to at least like do right by the community. But there were some things that we felt like we still needed help on, and we basically just went out and tried to find advisors who could support us in each of those places. So Josh Ong, I mean, I'm sure like many of the folks listening know Josh. He is like the one of the best community builders in the space. Won a Bored Ape grant to host in-person meetups. I mean, he seems everywhere. Josh mints like everything. There's not a project that
Not
Josh
wrong.
hasn't seen. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so we actually met at an impromptu meetup in Brooklyn, before a Nets game back in April, and just like felt like we both really had a pretty similar vision for how we hoped to contribute to the space and help push things forward. And so I think just as like a strategist and as a person who's so deep in the space and who thinks about community and what the definition of like a good project is versus a bad project, like he's great. He's an amazing resource. Andy, 8052, founder of Fractional, just like an awesome technical resource for us. Has been in the space for a super long time. One thing that was tough about our drop that I don't think I'll really ever forget is that what was great was there was like a ton of demand, way more than we expected, and it crashed our site, and so there was a bunch of minting from the contract, and it's just, I think the thing that's like tough about that is we want to be a project that's like for the people, and certainly like most people would prefer to mint from the site, and many people couldn't reach it. And so but to have like advisors like Andy, who for example was like just not only thinking about Fractional, but was like super early Top Shot and has spent a lot of time thinking about queuing and things like that, as someone who we can talk to figure out like how can we break away from this like drop madness and like bring like a more equitable drop process for future projects that like our company brings to market and things like that, is just like really really helpful. So he's amazing. Drew Austin really helps us with sort of an eye for like venture and things like that. Actually, the first time we ever spoke to Drew, he told us that he had previously been working on a somewhat similar idea for crowdsourced media. And so he's a great person just to like whiteboard with and chat about what we're trying to do and think through like user experience and stuff like that. I think Jacob, I mentioned already, as one of our attorneys, he's the one who's drawing up the licensing agreements. we're the first book that we're writing, we're licensing Apes because we know how their commercial agreements work. And so the licensing agreement basically fits in that we're bringing fits in like a puzzle piece to the Bored Ape commercial rights agreement. And so the way it works is a human being signs a licensing agreement that agrees to exchange an ape in favor of us paying the wallet that holds the ape at any point in time. So if you sign a licensing agreement for us for your ape, and then you transfer that ape to another wallet, that new wallet gets paid out.
Ooh, okay.
And that's like pretty novel. That's pretty novel for an agreement. But Jacob is like so deep in the space, and obviously a great attorney that he was able to help us like quite a bit on that. And then Adam Brotman has just like deep experience in sort of like Web 2 consumer experience. He was the chief digital officer at Starbucks, the president of J. Crew, and now the CEO of a venture-backed company. And he's been in the NFT space for a while, and he really helps us think through. I mean, the writer's room is an example of like basically a Web 2 user experience where people vote and they read and they can sort of finish things. That's gated behind Web3 authentication. You have to hold a writer's room NFT to get in, but once you're in, a lot of the voting happens off chain, and then we sort of bring it on with the final NFT. And so Adam is a person who has just like a ton of experience with those types of experiences. It's just been like really helpful as someone to bounce ideas off of and talk to. So that's the whole team where we're really fortunate to have those advisors. And yeah, we hope, I mean, we really hope that we can bring like a years long project and company like into the space that people really like feel like makes awesome stuff, and that the community can come along for the ride with stuff like the licensing that we're doing.
Well, that's amazing. You've done a really, really thorough breakdown of it. Absolutely love it. Shout out to Video Game Freak in the chat. But Jenkins, final thoughts here just regarding Bored Apes. We've seen, some absolute crazy sales for this. I mean, we're seeing projects left, right, and center that I feel are going to elevate the space overall. Where do you see Bored Apes in kind of the world a year from now?
That's a crazy question. I think the floor will be higher. That's for sure. I don't think Bored Apes are going anywhere. Uh, okay, this isn't an analogy that I made before, so this might sound crazy, but hear me out. I think CryptoPunks are to Bitcoin what Bored Ape is to Ethereum. I think that like the utility of owning a Bored Ape is like way deeper, and I think there's so much stuff that's going to be built on top of Bored Apes because of the way Yuga Labs has built their commercial rights agreements, and just like how much personality these apes have and the type of creativity that exists in the community. Whereas I think like a punk is like a blue chip asset to hold. And I think if you think of them that way, there's like a bit of a there's like maybe a bit of a symbiotic relationship because like the when one is doing well, it suggests that the other one may also, but I think they exist in a separate space, and I think that we will just continue to see more and more and more utility get packed into apes based off of the stuff that the community is building.
Love it. Well, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to tell us about it. If you got any leaks that you want to share down the line when you guys start writing stuff out, I would love to have you back and learn a little bit about how the writing process is going. And I personally, I own 10 tickets or of the Jenkins Valet NFT, so excited to see what you guys do. But thank you again for coming on.
Yeah, no doubt. Thanks for having me, and yeah, we'll see you in the writers' room. Can't wait.
Hell yeah! All right, we'll talk to you soon.
Yep, see you.
All right, guys, there's Jenkins the Valet. Sheesh. I learned a lot. Wait, whoa. That's, no, wrong music. Whoa. If you know, you know. That was...